So me and my husband have been happily married for about 16 years give or take. We both have stable careers, good family life and are fairly fortunate despite the cost of living racking the UK right now. We have 2 boys, 15 and 10, and up until this Sunday, thought we had it pretty good. We argue sometimes of course but never gotten too bad and we have a pretty decent sex life with some exploration but I won't get into that. Long and short is, on Sunday, just after I dropped our boys off at their friends, my husband asked me if we had the house alone and more importantly, do I have a minute? I said yes and he sat me down then got out this printed poster for some sort of orgy and started explaining to me the concept of a gaycation. How it's where straight men go to somewhere with sun, sand and booze and become gay for the duration of the trip but that's fine because it doesn't actually count, because what happens on the gaycation, stays on the gaycation. I was just completely silent and mortified, even more so when he said he was looking into booking a trip to Ibiza next year with his Bill, his sister's husband, to experience it for himself. When he finally let me speak I just said, I need him to be clear with me, is he gay? Because if yes, that's okay but we need to figure out what happens going forward. I didn't let myself get angry or upset, I was just stunned. He swore up and down how he's not gay and he's 100% attracted to women and of course still loves me and our boys. So I said well do you think you're bi maybe and he got very defensive, saying how I need to drop the accusations and that this is the beauty of the gaycation, it allows straight men to experience gayness without actually being gay and how it's like going to an aquarium. And again he was adamant he doesn't find men's bodies or genitalia exciting at all, but he needs to experience this apparently. I said well I'm really not comfortable because even if he was bi, this would be explicitly cheating on me and he got angry and reiterated he's not, because that's the beauty of the gaycation etc. I just had enough and left the room. I ignored him for the rest of the day but we spoke at tea where I again asked him, why does he want to do this so bad if he's not gay? He said how he's interested in how gay men's live differ to straight men's and that unfortunately, once the gaycation begins, it's simply impossible for a man to resist and he must surrender himself mind, body and soul to the gaycation or be destroyed. I really can't put into words how surreal it was, because he was speaking so matter-of-factly and he again insists this is a thing that straight men do all the time and how he's actually doing it a bit late. I just said to him if he has any love for me then he can't go ahead with this and if he does, the marriage will be dead. We didn't speak anymore after that. Since then he's mentioned no more of it but somehow, and this is what scares me a lot too, that decision genuinely seems to be tearing him up. He didn't go into work on Monday, and only went in half a day yesterday, because he told them he just felt too ill and he just looks distraught every time I see him. I really don't think he's wholly gay though I can absolutely believe he's bi but I'd rather we talked about that in a healthy way rather than this incredibly weird denialism around going on a sex holiday to Ibiza. Has anyone known straight guys to do this and come back and just go back to being straight? Like surely that can't be a thing that happens. I'm so out of my depth here and I just don't know how to even initiate the conversation. For the record I also haven't mentioned it to his sister yet, I don't know how I'd even break it to her. Thanks for any help, I just don't even want to think so being able to get this out there has helped even just a little bit. Edit, wow this blew up. This has been incredibly sobering and I think I've now confirmed what I already knew to be the case. The marriage is dead, one way or another. In a way I was in denial myself about that. I have contacted my sil and she initially screamed at me, calling me a liar and even insinuated I was trying to steal her husband. She rang me back shortly after, apologized and admitted she was in deep shock. I have asked my parents to look after the boys and we're going to meet tomorrow to discuss this deeper. I have also texted my husband and told him he will need to make alternative accommodation arrangements but he will not be sleeping here tonight and a bag will be waiting for him. Not sure if the mods want to lock the post or not but I think I've got my answers. Thank you for all the kind words, especially Champion Flight who really gave me the good dose of reality I needed. P.S. I see a lot of people asking about the aquarium and at risk of doxing myself, there is a pretty famous aquarium in the UK called the Deep. At the very end you walk through a tunnel that goes underneath the main fish tank so it's quite immersive I suppose. My husband explained the aquarium thing in that it's a bit like that. You go there and you observe the fishes, you even get a bit up close but you never actually enter the water, get emotionally invested, or become a fish, gay, so it doesn't really count. It was a very bizarre analogy and I pointed out it still makes no sense and he just got more in a huff and how I just don't get it. And frankly I still don't. Update 1. So when I last posted, I'd contacted my husband to tell him he wouldn't be staying at home tonight and a bag would be waiting for him. As you can imagine we argued. Quite badly. I won't go into the specific details but no I'm 100% on board with the fact that a minimum he's bi, might even be gay altogether. We've had arguments in the past but I've genuinely never seen him have such a childish tantrum before, screaming about how I just don't understand the gaycation, absolutely despise that phrase now, and insinuating I'm actually homophobic because I refuse to allow him to participate in this cultural exchange with the gay community. A lot of you said to ask him if it'd be acceptable if the roles were in reverse and I did say would it be acceptable if I went and slept with other guys during that week? Like fucking clockwork, he was very angry and offended, saying it's completely different because a gaycation means nothing and what happens on the gaycation, stays on the gaycation etc. so it doesn't actually count. Whereas I'd just be straight up cheating. Well, I turned it around on him. No, but you see, what happens in Manchester stays in Manchester. It doesn't mean anything, it doesn't count. It's like bird watching. And I think it got through to him. He went all quiet and then started crying, admitting the thought of me sleeping with another man is destroying his heart, but relationships need sacrifices, so agreed, while in tears, that when he goes on the gaycation, I'll get 1 week in Manchester to do whatever I want. He doesn't want me to, but that's fair in a twisted way, he supposed. I told him to get out of my house. Thankfully he left without a fight. I know it's incredibly petty, but I also drained the joint bank account, legal in the UK, so he couldn't try to use it against me. About an hour later, I got rang up by his mum, my mill, who just screamed and screamed at me about being a cheating WHRE, how I was horrible, what about the kids, etc. When I finally got my composure back, I just said, ask your son about the gaycation. Obviously at first she got angry, but I said no, just ask him about the gaycation, he'll explain, but she called me a fucking joke and hung up. Later on, getting into the evening, got another phone call from her in floods of tears. She was very apologetic, and I told her she doesn't need to be the one to apologize. She was so upset she put Phil on the phone, who, while he sounded calm, I could just sort of tell he was on the warpath. Again, very apologetic, and said he overheard that phrase, asked my husband, and husband initially said no, it's nothing, before explaining how it's a modern thing men to do, etc., and gave them the same spiel about how what happens on the gaycation, men cannot resist the gaycation, how a man must surrender to the gaycation, etc. Phil just said they told him to leave or they'd call the police, don't care where he goes, but he wasn't staying there. Husband tried to call me while I was on the phone, but I just ignored it, and Phil just said he was so sorry for me and they have my corner in this, so that's one thing. Told them to be there for their daughter because it sounds like Bill is involved. Husband didn't tell them that, and Phil just said he had to go because he was so angry. Got a text from my husband after the phone call, which was all weirdly rambly, saying about how I'd abused the gaycation to destroy his marriage and destroy his life, and again insinuated I, and his parents, was homophobic for doing such a thing. Told him we'll talk when he grows up, and blocked his number. I took a day off work myself to have the locks changed this morning, so that's a 500 pounds gone, but whatever, at least I know he won't be coming back. I'm going to look into how to proceed with a divorce, and then we'll move from there. Oh, of course, there's also the brother-in-law. So I haven't yet met with Sil. She was in such a state and has taken this far worse than I have, for reasons that'll be clear soon. We're going to maybe try tomorrow, but we did talk over the phone, and I eavesdropped on the conversation with her husband where she put her phone on speaker and I went on mute. Her husband got home earlier, she made him come home, told him there was an emergency, and just said to him, can you please explain what a gaycation is? She told me afterwards she was praying he'd look confused or just be like, what? Or anything like that. But instead he just sat her down and explained that a gaycation is a new thing where straight men go to gay hotspots and participate in gay sex acts, but it doesn't count because there's no investment, and because what happens on the gaycation stays on the gaycation. He said it's like writing down angry thoughts and putting them in a drawer. You never have to see them again. Whole time, Sil is in tears as he just calmly bats off the same points my husband did about how it doesn't count, and he even did the whole it's impossible to resist, you must surrender or be destroyed shit. I seriously think they must be speaking to a dominatrix or something. Are there even male doms? Because surely neither of them are that into this to actually make that up on their own. I really don't want to go into what was discussed, for her sake, but it did become very apparent to me that the bill is into sissy hypno porn, and at times conflated that with the concept of a gaycation. There was this utterly surreal moment where Sil is just trying to wrap her head around this while also in floods of tears, and he explains, so genuinely, so matter-of-factly, that for most men, the gaycation is either a one-time or annual thing, but some men go on the gaycation for years and others simply never return because they use hypnosis and mind control to be totally feminized into a state of permanent pseudo-gayness. She said in disbelief, surely if you're taking it up the arse willingly because you want to, that makes you gay, and he said no, because that's the beauty of the gaycation, you can do all this gay stuff but you don't interact with the wider gay life experience. She asked him if the sissy stuff is what he wanted, and he said, not on a long-term basis, and was adamant this is something all straight men do, but she wouldn't get it cause she's a woman. Then there were more insinuations of homophobia. Well, that marriage is dead too, I suppose. The whole ordeal ended when she said to him he has a choice to make, and he said, no, he doesn't need to make this choice because the beauty of the gaycation is that it allows him to keep his marriage because it doesn't count. She said that's not the choice is whether he's leaving the house that night or she is. Only good thing he did was leave. Me and Sil spoke about it after that, and I'm just still utterly stunned. I understand she's gone to her parents for the support. What exactly did we do to have our lives destroyed in such an abrupt, bizarre, embarrassing way? For some advice, I'm going to look at devices and bank statements to see if I can find any definitive proof of cheating. After that, I suppose figure out how I tell the boys why their father won't be coming home. Now on to second story. Discovered my fiancé secretly invited his old situationship to our wedding, reigniting doubts about his feelings and our future. I, 23F, am getting married in January and just found out my fiancé, Mark, 25M, fake name, Invited his old situationship to our wedding without consulting me. For context, me and Mark met on a dating app 2 years ago after he broke up a relationship. To be honest, it's quite confusing what he and Tracy, 22F, had. They met because of a mutual friend and started to develop feelings for each other. Mark told me they never dated and slept together, but it was more than friendship. Until today he keeps her love letters, gifts and talks about her. Tracy and him tried to stay in contact after the breakup, staying friends, but she ghosted him after finding out we started to date. From what I saw in her social media, she's in a relationship, so I'm not worried about her trying to get with my fiancé again. They haven't been in contact for 2 years, but he still has her number and email. I found out about him inviting her after I checked again our guest list and finding her name. I know Tracy is not a threat to our relationship, but Mark inviting her behind my back makes me feel bad about our whole wedding. He told me he doesn't feel anything for her, yet he made sure to send her an invitation. This is probably me being insecure, but my fear of him not getting over her is slowly creeping inside my heart. I don't want to lose him. Update 1. After reading the comments and talking with some friends, my heart finally understood Mark never really got over Tracy. In the beginning, I was in denial, but I went out with Tom, 24M, his best friend of years, to understand about what really happened between them. From what he told me, Tracy and Mark met because of some friends in common. She just got into the university and was 17 at the time, while Mark was already almost graduating. They stayed friends for 2 years and feelings started to blossom. Mark was already working while she was still in college. He only wanted to formally date her after her graduation, so it was never a thing, even though they shared love letters, gifts and shared almost every holiday together. Tom told me everyone from their old friend group thought they would marry since they were so sweet together. So, their breakup was really unpredictable. Tracy was the one who broke up with Mark due to their religious values not lining up, as she wanted to save herself until marriage. In the end, they decided it was better to go separate ways and maybe try again after a few years. But after me and Mark started to date, Tracy realized that it was pointless to wait for him and started to see other people too, so she blocked in everything, except email, just to have a clean beginning. In the end, I finally realized Mark is just hopeful that Tracy would come back to him due to their talks of trying again after a while. It honestly hurt so much, as I loved him so much. I still didn't confront him since I'm still shaken up. Boo. I don't know if this marriage will happen. Update 2. My parents are the one canceling everything for me. It's like a return to my childhood when mom and dad had to solve my problems. I confronted Mark after talking with Tom and made him aware of everything I've been dealing. His reaction at the beginning was dismissive and was almost as if he was trying to escape from the situation. In the end, Mark said he never loved someone like Tracy because it was pure and innocent. She reminded him that not everything is about carnal desire, and in the darkest moments of his life, Tracy was like a sunlight. Hearing the man you love admitting how much he loved another woman is so hurtful. During the talk, I started to cry, bawling my eyes out. Mark had the audacity to say he loves me, but it's a different kind of love. I asked why he invited her to our wedding and he was speechless. Why he had to throw away our future for something in the past. This hurts so much. Mark told me he knew Tracy didn't block him on email, since he was the one who helped her get her first job and a lot of professional stuff was also involved. This is how he was able to send her our wedding invitation, but he meant no harm. When I asked what he meant with this, Mark just said he wanted to make her watch us together and realize what she lost because he was hurt that Tracy was pregnant and not married. The moment Mark mentioned about Tracy's pregnancy, a red alarm started to echo in my head. How did you know about her pregnancy? You said she blocked you everywhere. I could see panic in his eyes as he started to stutter. In the end, I made him give me his phone and I found out more than 5 accounts to stalk Tracy. My stomach felt sick and the urge to vomit was overwhelming. In the end, I decided to call off the engagement since he was a creep. Mark threw himself on the floor asking for forgiveness, and he loves me, just in a different way compared to Tracy, and was just hurt that she gave herself to another man while he begged her countless times for sex. This made me feel even more disgusted with him because he felt entitled to her virginity and body. I left without taking even a bag with me. Everything is just too much. I can't believe I spent 2 years loving a stalker, a man-child. Oh, I also told Tracy everything and his accounts. I don't know if she saw my messages, but I hope she does. The jealousy I once felt for her transformed into pity, as no woman should go through what Mark has done. Mark wants to meet up with me and doesn't want to break up, but I'm just so tired. Update 3. I think this is my last update, since I've already met up with Tracy and talked about what happened. Me and her met at a cafe, and in the beginning I was really nervous, as I didn't know what was her reaction because her reply was only "Hi, let's talk over a cup of coffee." When I was waiting for her, I could feel my back sweating and overall, lots of emotion. Tracy arrived and I finally understood why Mark was so obsessed with her, as she is definitely one of the most beautiful women I saw. She's pretty on the pictures, but personally she looks better. Tracy said hello to me and asked if I'm willing to go to her house to talk, since being outside for too long makes her really tired. We ordered some coffee to go and it was super awkward. So now let's talk about what she told me. First of all, she apologized for being the reason why now I'm single, which I assured her is not her fault. Tracy said she received the invitation, but was simply not interested in participating in our wedding as she was already in a happy relationship and is pointless to see a person from the past. With the story Tom and Mark told me, I got curious and asked about them staying friends as it sounded like she wanted to stay with him after the breakup and it's the polar opposite of her behavior. Tracy was extremely uncomfortable with this question, but still explained to me why she said that. In the beginning, she was really in love with Mark because he was her first love. She described him as a protector, someone trustworthy, handsome and kind as he always showered her in gifts and travels. Everything was fine and sweet, but over time, Mark started to beg her for sex so much to the point of her pretending to be sick just to avoid him. She just didn't want to sleep with him and had some sort of blockage, like a sixth sense telling her to not do this. She was sick and tired about all of this and used the fact that her parents are extremely religious to justify why sex was off the chart. This led to a fight, which Mark never told me, and them breaking up. But 2 weeks after, they started to talk again as she felt in debt with him as he helped her get a job in a prestigious company and he spent a lot of money on her with trips, foods and presents. One of the gifts was a Rolex for her 18th birthday, which made me mad since he never spent so much money on me. So when Tracy found out me and Mark was seeing each other, she felt relieved and finally had a proper reason to block him everywhere since he was still sometimes hinting about them sleeping together. In the end, I told her in the entire relationship, Mark would sometimes talk about her and in the beginning it was kind of weird, but I just brushed it off since she was part of his story. Oh, I also talked about Mark's numerous accounts and in the beginning she didn't believe me. But I showed her the accounts I knew, which was creepy since they all had female names, followers and pictures. All of them looked real. Her account is public, so I asked Tracy to make it private. She made a new account with her Korean name and deactivated the old one. We had fun and became friends. She is a really sweet person and I saw how her boyfriend treated her like a queen. I'm happy she found love and got rid of Mark.